Okay, the time being 10:04. Welcome. And I'm going to start with opening the executive session on SB 83. And I'll recognize Representative Ulrich for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we retain this bill as there's a lot of work yet to be done.
Thank you. Representative Schamberg seconds it. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No. However, for the record, as I said, it's
More work.
there's much more work that needs to be done to make sure that this is crystal clear and everyone understands what it does and does not do.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting on Senate Bill 83FN, establishing an elderly, disabled, blind, and deaf property tax exemption reimbursement fund, authorizing VLTs, renaming the Lottery Commission, and creating a voluntary statewide self-exclusion database. The motion is ITL.
No. Motion is retained.
Stand
It's-
corrected.
It's early.
The motion is retain. Got ahead of myself. Representative Ulrich.
Could I really confuse you and say something other than I?
Votes aye. Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi is absent. Representative Kofalt.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Cole.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Mary Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Smith, absent. Representative Opal.
Out.
Absent. Representative Spar.
Yes.
I count 17-0 with 3.
The vote being 17-0, this will be retained in committee. And I'll close the executive session on SB 83. Okay, I'll now open the executive session on SB 249 and recognize Representative Ulrich for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to ought to pass with amendment on SB 249 FN.
Do I have, just ought to pass?
Yes,
Ought
ought to pass, but there is an amendment.
Do I have a
that will
second?
offer.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Schamberg seconds it.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair,
Representative Ulrich?
yeah, I would offer House Amendment 2025 2465H dated 5/9.
Do I have a second?
Second that, Mr.
Representative Almy seconds it. All right, would you like to speak to your amendment?
As we're aware, recently there was an agreement between, in an ongoing lawsuit between the state of New Hampshire and various parties associated with Met. This amendment attempts to incorporate that agreement between the parties involved into current state law, setting the stage for another action in another 4 years.
Okay, other comments? Representative Schamberg?
Mr. Chairman, do we have anybody that can at least give us a synopsis of the agreement itself? What the numbers are, percentages, or?
That's a good question. Okay, it looks like we do have somebody. Please introduce yourself and we welcome your comments.
Thank you. For the record, Henry Lippman, the state's Medicaid director. I think most importantly, in terms of the numbers in HB1 as passed by the House for the Medicaid enhancement tax and the dish payments remain, for the Medicaid enhancement tax payments remain, so that we're not asking HB1 to be changed. The agreement between the hospitals and the state, at a high level, it has covers the years 2025, which is outside of the legislation, and 26 and 27 state fiscal years. The governor's proposal, which is built into that, has 87.5% as being the percent of Medicaid enhancement tax, as opposed to 91%, but it uses a higher percentage of dollars to attract a higher federal match, so that even though it's a lower percentage, the amount that's able to be paid to the hospitals is higher in terms of dollars. And so in terms of the state budget, it's neutral. In terms of the hospitals, it has an enhanced payment to them satisfactorily to the level where they're willing to sign an agreement with the state.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions? Representative Elmy.
Thank you. Do you know if anybody has managed to do anything about the border hospitals?
Yes, part of the agreement in terms of how the dollars that are come into the agreement, that between the hospitals and the state worked out for an adjustment for border hospitals. I know you represent Dartmouth, Hitchcock, and they were intricately involved in the discussions in terms of coming to that resolution.
Thank you.
Representative Schenberg.
Thank you, sir, for taking this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking this question. You said that the governor will use a higher percentage of funds to draw in more federal match. It's sort of what I'm getting the impression of. These funds are just monies that is set aside in the rainy day fund, or are they monies that are set aside in the overall budget, or?
So it's all Medicaid enhancement tax that draws the federal match, so no general funds in terms of the Medicaid enhancement tax. So generally, historically, the uncompensated care for hospitals was paid in the form of what they call disproportionate share payments, and it had a across the board 50% federal match. What we're utilizing in this agreement is a form of payment called directed payments, which reflect the eligibility status of someone who we pay a capitation rate for. So if it's a child that is covered through the what is known as a CHIP program, the federal match, rather than being 50, would be 65%. If it's someone who's part of the Granted Advantage healthcare program group, it'd be 90% as opposed to 50%. And by being able to utilize that approach with the geographic adjustment factor was, I think, the reason we were able to come to an agreement with the parties.
Follow up? No, you're all set? Okay. Yes, Representative Bolton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So regarding critical access hospitals, I guess they originally set for 91% anyway. So how does this affect them?
So critical access hospitals have for since 2021, we've used directed payments for critical access hospitals for their entire, they have not received DISH. And so that we've been able to for the smaller hospitals, if you will, the critical access hospitals, we've not used DISH for a number of years. We've used directed payments. Whereas the PPS hospitals, we're just introducing it to a much larger extent than has existed. And the critical access hospitals are, under the prior agreement, are entitled to 75% of their uncompensated care, and that's working for a global pool that would produce that for critical access hospitals again.
Yes, Representative Shamberg.
I got it back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On these direct payments, instead of the 50, you direct at 65, we're not going to have any problem with the federal government saying that we maybe change the language or we change it. I'm worried about what happened before. I just don't want to see us be on the short end here.
Sure. We believe, based on legislation that's currently in place, is contemplated by the House as part of the budget reconciliation, that the term of this agreement, that we would be able to be fine. I think, federal law changes all the time, but I think the parties, there's also a provision if there was a substantial change in law that the parties would have to come back together. But we believe that through the period of the legislation, we're going to be okay.
Any other questions?
Does Mr. Ahern, is he here? Hospital Association?
He is.
Over there.
Would you like me to step down or retain?
I think we're good for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning. Steve Anand. I'm the president of the New Hampshire Hospital Association.
May I follow up with a question, Mr. Chairman? Or you
Follow
want
up? Yeah, question?
Mr. Ahern, since you are I call you the face of this whole bill, what is your feeling concerning this bill, the way it's now stipulated?
Thank you for the question. Certainly would probably prefer a prettier face for any piece of legislation. But what I would say is we're supportive of this change to the bill, and therefore we would be supportive of the bill in its entirety as amended. Certainly, we've come to an agreement with the state. We appreciate that. We appreciate this committee's indulgence, giving us a little bit of additional time to come to agreement. It's been a long time coming, but we feel we've reached a fair and reasonable settlement that is good for New Hampshire's Medicaid program, to strengthen the program, to make certain that hospitals can continue to provide the care and services that our patients need, and provide additional revenue and stability for the Medicaid program that will ensure other providers have the resources that they need to care for their patients in their communities.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. Is the Medicaid enhancement tax still at the 5.4%, or is it a different percentage now?
It remains at 5.4%. And as Mr. Lippman noted, the changes that are being contemplated in Washington, should the provisions remain in the budget reconciliation bill as it came out of the House, would remain at 5.4%. We would not be permitted to raise that and generate additional federal match on that. So it remains at 5.4%.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Chairman. We're still waking up. We are voting on the amendment 2025-2465H to Senate Bill 249, which is a bill relative to the Uncompensated Care and Medicaid Fund. The vote on the amendment is ought to pass. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Clerk's vote yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Kofalt.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Cole.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Mary Ford.
Yes.
Representative Mary Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Smith is absent. Representative Opal is absent. Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
18.
The vote being 18-2, the amendment passes.
Two absent.
Uh,
Yeah.
Oh, 18, I'm sorry, 18-0, 2 absent. Yeah. It still passes. Okay. Now we'll move on to OTP as amended. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting on the amendment number 2025-2465H to Senate Bill 249FN. The motion is ought to pass as amended. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Kofalt.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
Yes.
Representative Cole.
Yes.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Mary Ford.
Yes.
Representative Mary Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Southworth.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Bolton.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Smith is absent. Representative Opal is absent. Representative Spar.
Yeah.
And Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
18-0 with 2 absent.
Okay, the vote being 18-0, the OTPA motion passes. And I do not believe this can go on consent because it's fiscal note. But the bill passes, and I will close the executive session on SB 249. All right, well, that pretty much wraps us up for today. And
I drove
This-
all the way up here for this.
very important votes. And that's it. We've now gone through all our bills. We've retained, I believe, 9 in total. So sometime in September or October timeframe, I'll call a meeting so we can go through our retained bills. Any questions, comments, thoughts? Representative Ohm.
Yeah, I believe we have some Senate bills coming our way for committee of conference. Do we have anything that we should talk about at this point?
I have not been given any, so I don't know at the moment. We're not having a House session this Thursday, so yeah, and I don't have anything right now. Yes, Representative Ulrey.
Just to remind the people, the notice it's been in the calendar and in emails, you want to get your picture took, arrive no later than 8:30 on the 5th.
Sounds good. All right, well, if there's nothing else, no other questions, thank you very much, and meeting is adjourned.